So you look up at the moon tonight,
Yeah.
right? And you probably think you're seeing this, glowing rock in motion.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what our eyes tell us.
Right. But according to the laws of four-dimensional physics, what you're actually looking at is it's a static, frozen cosmic snake.
It's wild to even think about.
Yeah, and it's physically tied to the Earth in this geometric knot that literally hasn't moved in 4.5 billion years.
It really does completely upend our entire sensory experience. I mean, we inherently trust our eyes to give us the literal truth of the universe.
Exactly.
But the moment you start peeling back the layers of space-time and, human perception, that whole linear reality it completely shatters.
It totally does. So welcome to a deep dive that is going to fundamentally rewire how you perceive the night sky.
Yeah, get ready.
We have a set of notes today that, they start in the realm of standard astrophysics, but they aggressively accelerate into Einstein's four-dimensional block universe.
Oh, yeah, we're going there.
And macroscopic quantum mechanics, and ultimately a neurological framework for human consciousness itself. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right.
Because the underlying argument here is that the physical mechanics of the cosmos are like acting as a direct blueprint for your own mind.
Which is huge. But to appreciate the massive conceptual leaps we are going to take into these higher dimensions, we kind of have to start by establishing the physical baseline.
The 3D stuff?
Exactly. The three-dimensional anomalies of the moon are actually what point toward these higher dimensional realities.
Right, but let's bypass the textbook basics.
Oh.
Anyone listening knows the moon is 384,400 kilometers away.
Give or take.
Right.
Yeah.
And it controls our ocean tides, it stabilizes our 23.5-degree axial tilt, and basically keeps our seasons from descending into planetary chaos.
It's definitely pulling its weight.
For sure. But what's far more interesting is the mechanical precision of its orbit. It takes 27.3 days. And we're looking at this gravitational dance that has essentially applied the brakes to the Earth over billions of years.
Right. Well, it's slowing the Earth's rotation by about 2 milliseconds every 100 years. I mean, billions of years ago, a day on Earth was only like 6 hours long.
Wait, really? Just 6 hours?
Yeah. It was spinning incredibly fast. The friction from the tides acts like a brake. But you're also referring to tidal locking with the moon itself.
Yeah, explain that for a second.
So the moon rotates on its own axis at the exact precise rate it takes to orbit the Earth, which is that 27.3 days.
Which means we are forever staring at just one hemisphere. We only ever see the near side.
Exactly.
It's this localized physical phenomenon, but it sets up this weird dynamic of a celestial body permanently facing its host. But before we leave this 3D perspective, we have to talk about the light, the albedo anomaly.
Oh, this is a fun one.
Because the notes highlight this, and it feels like a literal glitch in our visual perception.
Yeah, so the albedo, meaning the proportion of incident light that a surface reflects, it's a crucial metric in astrophysics.
Because we all know the moon doesn't generate its own light.
Right.
It reflects the sun. And its surface is covered in regolith, like this jagged, pulverized rock and space dust. So it relies on diffuse reflection.
Meaning it scatters light in all directions, yeah, rather than bouncing it cleanly like a mirror.
Right. But here is where I have to stop you. The raw data states its albedo is only 12%.
Just 12%.
It absorbs 88% of the solar radiation that hits it. So you're telling me a surface with a 12% albedo is, scientifically speaking, as reflective as a worn asphalt road or like a lump of coal.
That's exactly what the numbers say, yeah.
How is that possible? If I'm looking at a giant asphalt sphere in the sky, how is it so bright that it's casting shadows on Earth?
Well, it really comes down to the mechanics of contrast and in the nature of a vacuum.
Okay.
You have to remove the atmospheric context that your brain relies on down here on Earth. Space is an absolute void. It is a pitch black canvas with zero ambient light.
Right. There's no streetlights in space.
Exactly. So when you place this dark, poorly reflective charcoal sphere into that absolute void, and then you just blast it with the unshielded, raw nuclear radiation of a local star.
Just hitting it directly.
Yeah. That scattered 12% is actually overwhelming to an observer peering up through a dark atmosphere.
Okay, wow. A charcoal sphere masquerading as a brilliant beacon just because of the sheer contrast of the void.
Pretty much.
That 12% metric is going to become incredibly important later. But for now, this 3D model of orbits and tides and reflected light, that's where the standard narrative basically stops.
Yeah, that's where traditional physics kind of leaves it.
And it's where these notes ask us to make a massive shift. because this whole model of a rock moving through space falls apart the second you apply Einstein's relativity.
Right. We have to step out of 3D space and into the four-dimensional block universe.
Okay, brace yourselves.
This is a fundamental reimagining of reality. I mean, in our everyday experience, time is a ticking clock, right? It's a river moving past us. But in physics, time is simply a spatial coordinate.
So if I'm understanding the block universe correctly, the past, the present, and the future aren't sequential events happening one after another. They exist simultaneously.
Yes. Think of the entire history and future of the universe as a solid block of glass.
Okay.
Every moment that has ever happened and ever will happen is already permanently suspended inside that block.
Wow.
You, as a 3D observer, are just a scanner. You're moving through it, experiencing the cross-sections frame by frame, but the structure itself is totally static.
Okay, let's bring this down to the listener's immediate experience. If you look at your own hand right now in 3D, you see your hand as it is today.
Right.
But if you could view your hand in 4 dimensions, you wouldn't see a hand. You would see this continuous solid tube of flesh stretching backward in space all the way to the hospital where you were born.
Exactly.
And stretching forward to the exact geographic coordinates where you will eventually pass away.
Yeah, physicists call that a world tube.
A world tube.
And when you apply that 4D geometry to celestial bodies, well, the concept of a spherical moon completely dies.
So it's not a sphere anymore.
No, the moon is not a round ball. Because it orbits the Earth as the Earth moves along its own path around the sun, the moon's continuous historical and future position forms this giant, glowing helical rope.
Like a slinky.
Yeah, exactly. It's a corkscrew shape wrapping endlessly around the Earth's own world tube.
But wait, if time is just a physical dimension and everything is already locked in this giant glass block, that implies there's absolutely no movement.
None. What's fascinating here is that in 4D, there is no motion. The helical rope isn't moving. The Earth isn't spinning. The entire solar system is just a frozen, static sculpture. The orbit is just an illusion.
Okay, I have to challenge this because it creates a massive mechanical paradox.
All right, lay it on me.
If everything in 4D is completely frozen and motion is just a trick of our consciousness moving through the frames, how do you account for a violent collision, like a planetary collision?
I see where you're going.
Right. Because our prevailing model for the moon's creation is the giant impact hypothesis. 4.5 billion years ago, a Mars-sized planet named Theia smashed into the Earth.
Right.
And the ejecta from that collision coalesced into the moon. But a collision, by definition, requires kinetic energy. It requires two objects moving toward each other. How do things crash in a universe where nothing moves?
That is the exact friction point that forces us to truly understand 4D geometry. You're still trying to watch a crash like it's a movie playing out over time.
Well, yeah.
But in 4 dimensions, there is no kinetic event, there is no crash, there is only a shape.
A shape. What does that shape look like?
So if you take the 4D world tube of the Earth and you trace it backward along the time axis 4.5 billion years, you don't witness an explosion.
Okay.
You find a structural intersection. You find the world tube of this other planet, Theia, coming in from a different spatial angle. The two planetary tubes cross, they intersect, and they fuse together permanently.
Oh, wow.
In topology, this is known as a knot.
A literal knot in space-time.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And radiating out of that massive geometric knot, a new, smaller helical tube branches off.
And that's the moon.
That is the moon. Structurally, what this means is that the moon is not an isolated rock that just happens to be caught in our gravity well. Because they share that continuous topological knot, the moon is a literal, unbroken physical branch of the Earth's four-dimensional body.
It's crazy.
They are a single cosmic tree.
That reframes everything. And wait, because the past doesn't vanish in a block universe? That implies the planet Theia wasn't destroyed.
It wasn't. Theia is still sitting right there in space-time, permanently frozen at that exact junction.
That gives me chills.
Right. If you could step outside our specific slice of time, you would see the whole massive Y-shaped structure. Theia fusing into Earth, the moon branching outward, just sitting perfectly still.
Okay, so if the Earth and the moon are a single continuous topological structure, what happens when we pull the lens back even further? Because the notes push us to look at the entire solar system next.
Yeah, they zoom way out.
But they do it by escalating from 4D geometry up to 5D macroscopic quantum mechanics. And in doing so, they completely reject the standard model of how our solar system formed.
Right. The standard model you're referring to is the nebular hypothesis.
Okay.
It's essentially a chronological assembly line. First, a massive cloud of gas and dust collapses. The sun ignites at the center.
The standard stuff.
Yeah. Then, over millions of years, the leftover debris in the outer ring slowly accretes, clumping together to form the planets one by one in a strict chronological sequence.
But the notes suggest that when you view this system in a higher dimensional state, what they actually refer to as a superfluid light ocean, that chronological factory line is a mathematical impossibility.
Exactly.
But I need you to clarify this, because taking quantum mechanics, which governs like subatomic particles, electrons, and quarks, and applying it to massive macroscopic planets feels like a huge leap.
It does sound like a stretch at first.
How does that mathematically scale up without breaking the laws of physics?
Well, it relies on a principle called scale invariance, and it's actually observable in certain extreme physical states like Bose-Einstein condensates.
Okay.
In those states, millions of distinct atoms cool down and suddenly merge to share the exact same quantum wave function. They stop acting like individual particles entirely.
They just become one thing.
Yeah, they behave as one single macro atom. So the argument here is that the nascent solar system, in its primordial higher dimensional state, functioned as a singular quantum field.
Meaning the birth, the lifespan, and the death of the entire solar system is one indivisible wave function.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's use the analogy of a hydrogen atom forming.
Okay.
When an atom forms, the proton doesn't materialize first, sit around in a void for a million years, and then wait for an electron to slowly form from surrounding dust.
Right. They're intrinsically linked.
The moment that quantum state collapses into reality, the proton and the electron appear simultaneously. They are fundamentally entangled from the moment of inception.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So if we map that subatomic architecture onto the cosmos,
Yeah, do it.
the sun is the nucleus, and the planets, with their sweeping four-dimensional helical timelines wrapping around it, are the electron clouds.
Okay.
The notes argue they were born in a single cosmic second. The sun formed as a primary quantum vortex, and the planets emerged instantly as the secondary ripples of that exact same wave.
It forces us to abandon the idea of separate objects interacting. Separating the sun from the Earth, or, the Earth from the moon, becomes structurally impossible in 5D.
They're all one thing.
Yeah, it would be like trying to isolate the left side of a coin from the right side of a coin. They aren't separate objects that met. They are codependent variables of one unified macro-quantum structure.
Which brings us to the most aggressive and fascinating pivot in this deep dive. We've established this massive, unified cosmic geometry. We are physically part of a continuous topological structure originating from the sun.
Right.
The notes take this astrophysics and bring it straight down into human neurology.
This is where we cross from pure physics into, honestly, a scientific rationalization of ancient philosophies, specifically concepts like cosmic resonance and planetary influence.
Right. If the planets are physically touching each other in a frozen 4D landscape, and our bodies are an emergent property of the Earth's timeline, then the distance between us and the cosmos is an illusion.
A total illusion.
Their structural vibrations are directly physically resonating with our human nervous system. We are touching the whole system.
It recontextualizes cosmic influence as a structural reality, not some mystical astrological thing. And from this premise of physical resonance, the source material draws a profound mapping of the celestial bodies directly onto the human condition.
Let's trace that logic because it's brilliant. First, the Earth represents the physical human body. It is grounded, it's elemental, it's the core structure anchoring us to this reality.
Correct. Now look at the moon. Remember the 4D topology we discussed earlier?
Yeah.
The knot.
The branch of the cosmic tree.
Right. The moon is the furthest extending branch of the Earth's physical body. So in this neurological analogy, the moon maps to the human mind, the intellect and the ego.
Because it's the highest cognitive branch extending from the physical body.
Exactly.
Which leaves the sun, the nucleus of this macroscopic atom. The notes map the sun to pure, absolute consciousness, what they term infinite gnosis, or a state where energy equals infinity.
And this mapping reveals a critical mechanical problem regarding human cognition.
How so?
Well, if the sun represents infinite, unadulterated cosmic truth, and the Earth represents our localized 3D physical form, what happens if that infinite data stream hits our nervous system directly?
I mean, it would be a catastrophic system failure.
Absolutely. The human nervous system is anchored in a sequential 3-dimensional reality. It requires time to process stimuli.
Right, one thing at a time.
Yeah. It fundamentally lacks the bandwidth to process the simultaneous past, present, and future of an infinite quantum universe. If we were exposed to the raw data of the absolute truth, it would fry our neural circuits.
We had overload.
We would be completely paralyzed. We wouldn't be able to distinguish a memory from a future event from an immediate threat standing right in front of us.
So we need a buffer. We need something to, like, step down the voltage of reality so we can cross the street, eat a meal, and actually function as biological organisms.
Yes.
So what does this all mean? Because if that's true, then the implication here is staggering. It brings us all the way back to the very first 3D physical anomaly we discussed.
Yeah.
The 12% albedo.
Yes. The physical constraint perfectly mirrors the cognitive one.
It maps perfectly.
Yeah.
Just like the physical moon in the vacuum of space absorbs 88% of the blinding solar radiation and only reflects a tiny, manageable 12% fragment down to the Earth.
Right.
Our mind, the neurological moon, is acting as a cognitive step-down transformer.
It is the ultimate expression of the maxim. As above, so below.
It's incredible. The mind takes the overwhelming infinite consciousness of the sun, filters out the 88% that would completely overwhelm our physical hardware, and reflects just a tiny 12% down into our bodies.
And we experience that 12% reflection as our daily thoughts, our limited ego, and our baseline human comprehension.
Wow. It suggests that the structure of the cosmos isn't just an external environment we happen to inhabit. It is the exact functional blueprint of our own internal architecture.
The human mind evolved, or structurally emerged, depending on how you look at it, as a literal mirror. Its primary function isn't to show us the ultimate truth of the universe, but to deliberately dull that truth just enough so that a 3D organism can survive.
We walk around thinking our thoughts and our logic are the absolute truth of reality. But they aren't. They're just moonlight.
Just moonlight.
They're just the 12% of infinity that we can neurologically tolerate.
It's a perspective that induces a profound sense of humility, I think, but also a strange comfort. It frames our cognitive limitations not as flaws or failings in our intelligence, but as a perfectly engineered defense mechanism inherited from the geometry of the solar system itself.
It radically shifts what we are looking at. When you look at the moon now, you aren't looking at a rock.
No.
You are looking at a localized 3D cross-section of a frozen four-dimensional timeline inextricably knotted to our own planet, acting as the electron to the sun's nucleus in a macroscopic quantum state.
It's quite the resume.
Right. And fundamentally, you are looking at an externalized reflection of your own mind, dutifully shielding you from the blinding reality of the infinite.
It demands that we stop viewing ourselves as passive observers of the universe and start recognizing ourselves as integrated, functioning components of its geometry.
It's a beautiful way to see it. But this complex, perfectly functioning system leaves us with a highly provocative question. One for you to mull over the next time you look up at the night sky.
Oh, I like where this is going.
We've established that our minds operate like the moon, safely filtering reality so we can function. But what exactly happens to human consciousness during a solar eclipse of the mind? If that 12% filter is suddenly removed, or chemically bypassed, or just temporarily misaligned, do we plunge into total incomprehensible darkness? Or without the glare of the reflected sunlight, do we finally see the infinite stars that the filter was hiding from us all along?
That is a fascinating structural question to consider.
Keep looking up, everyone, and keep looking inward. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.